Smile, Dad. It's branding. That's what my daughter said when she pinned the little white circle to my lapel. Felt like a bee sting through the rented suit. Black serif font. Cute floral border. The word in the middle like a slap. Lower. Class. I laughed. Reflex. Like when you stub your toe and pretend it's nothing. Funny. I stretched the word until it snapped. She adjusted my tie like we were in on the same joke. It's a vibe, she said, eyes darting past me to the photographer. We're doing, like, a social theme. Social theme. The ballroom smelled like eucalyptus and money. The good kind of money, quiet, melted into the fabric of everything. White hydrangeas the size of fists. Tiny gold forks that looked allergic to real food. And up on a chalkboard where the seating chart lived, I saw it for the first time. 3 columns in the same fancy font. Upper, by the windows, with the skyline. Middle, in the middle, obviously. Lower, near the kitchen doors, where the trays come out with a sigh. I held out my arms, crusader style. So, you're doing literal classes at your wedding. She twirled, veil catching the light like sugar. It's camp, she said, and the bridesmaids shriek laugh like glass breaking far away. Meta-commentary, Dad. It's satire. Meta-commentary, my ass. You ever notice how bullies hide their punches in parentheses? Which one's the groom in? I asked. She bit her lip. Upper, she said, and shrugged like gravity. He has to be, babe. His parents are hosting. Babe. When did I become babe? I looked down at the badge. Lower. Simple. Honest. Like the name on a tombstone. Okay, I said. Calm. Father of the bride, calm. Where's mine? She didn't get it. On your lapel. No, I said. My seat. Where's my seat? She chewed the inside of her cheek, the way she used to do before spelling tests. You're with the cousins, she said, and the sentence lost steam. You know how the flow worked out. You raised me to be adaptable, remember? Oh, we're doing that. The memory parade. Fevered nights at the free clinic with a coughing kid. Sketchy car that took 3 miracles to pass inspection. Homework at the diner because the apartment had a leak and the landlord had a ghost number. Adaptable. Sure. She touched my shoulder, light as lint. Dad, don't be weird. Embrace it. It's a bit. The photo booth props are little monocles. You're gonna love it. This is where I should have walked. I'm telling you straight. I should have turned, found the exit, let the eucalyptus swallow me whole. But here's the thing about single dads. We get real good at outlasting rooms. Someone clapped beside us. The wedding planner, sleek bun, headset, the grim serenity of an air traffic controller, materialized with a clipboard like scripture. Father of the bride. She cooed to me, like a nurse with a big needle. We're lining up for pre-ceremony candidates. And after the reveal, we'll need you on. Her eyes flicked at my badge. Lovely. On brand. What reveal? I asked. My daughter squeaked, delighted. Oh, right. So, there's a fun twist. If you hear fun twist at your kid's wedding, check your parachute. She took both my hands. Warm. Slight shimmer of sweat. We're doing a father moment, she said. But with 2 fathers. 2. My voice did the thing where it splits and watches itself talk. As in 2. Enter, Brad. Beige suit. Beige smile. The man who sells the kind of houses that come with names. He jogged in like a Labrador who'd just found a stick labeled respect. Big guy, he said, and hugged me before I could move. Smelled like peppermints and plants. Can't wait to share the floor with you. It's an honor. Brad has been my ex-wife's husband for 9 years. He taught my daughter how to parallel park, in a Tesla that parks itself. He calls me man a lot. He calls everyone man. Share the floor. I asked, wiping Labrador enthusiasm off my lapels. For what? The dance, my daughter said. We're splitting the song. And there it was, the gut punch, not even pretending to be a joke. I felt my chest tighten like a fist. The song. Our song. The one I used to hum while braiding her hair before school because we couldn't afford the detangler spray and the braids kept the frizz in line. The one we swayed to in a kitchen that buzzed. Fridge loud. Neighbor TV bleeding through the wall. Rice boiling too hard because the stove didn't do low. I picked that song when she was 7 and scared of thunderstorms. She'd put her little feet on top of mine and we'd shuffle in circles until the sky calmed down. We decided it would mean a lot, she said. To include all sides. All sides. Like I'm potato salad. I looked to Brad. He lifted both hands. Hey, I'm just the plus one with a mortgage, he said, grin pasted on. This is her day. Right, I said. Give me a second. I stepped out into the hallway where the air had fewer opinions. The carpet was too soft, swallowing footsteps like secrets. Through a cracked service door, I could hear the kitchen, metal on metal, a radio murmuring oldies, somebody laughing the way tired people laugh, edges frayed but still here. Lower class soundtrack, volume medium. I stared at the badge until the letters started to swim. Lower. I peeled it off slow, like a band-aid, but it held a stubborn thread of glue, clinging. Figures. Trying to bail? My ex-wife's voice came from behind me, smooth as a satin dress and twice as costly. She leaned in the doorway, steady on champagne heels, her hair an architecture of forgiving light. She held her own badge, upper. Of course. Don't be dramatic, Nate. I'm not dramatic, I said. I'm labeled. She rolled her eyes. It's satire. She's making a point. What's the point? That you're being touchy. She clinked her glass against the door frame, a tiny bell toll. She loves you. She wanted you here. Don't make this about you. Here's the twist the rom-coms never show. The person who left can still talk like they stayed. She left when our girl was 5. Said she needed air. Breathed all the way to Scottsdale. I sent school pictures. She sent postcards. On the back, wish you were here. On the front, palm trees. I paid for her braces, I said, which wasn't the point but arrived anyway. We all contribute, she said, which wasn't true but sounded like something a committee would put in a brochure. The planner's voice chirped over her headset. We're 5 minutes to aisle. She tilted her head like she could hear God. Positions, everyone. My ex reached for my lapel. Your sticker's crooked. It says lower. I know. She smiled a small, pitying smile. Just own it. She walked away, heels tapping out a verdict. This is the part where I'm supposed to swallow and behave. Clap at the right times. Watch my kid fold into a life that doesn't have room for the man who taught her to climb out of windows when the fire alarm lied at 3 a.m. because the battery hated us. A busboy breezed by with a tub of glasses. He had a badge too. No floral border. Name tag. Marco. He saw mine. He laughed. Real, from the stomach. Man, he said, nodding toward the kitchen. You're one of us. Apparently, I said. You want a seat? He cocked his head toward a steel stool just inside the service door. Best view in the house. You can watch the whole machine work. And then I heard it. The rehearsal chords through the closed ballroom doors, the opening strains of our song, softened by walls and distance, but still ours. My throat did that dumb, tight thing. I turned the badge in my fingers. Lower. A verdict or a dare? Hold this, I told Marco, pressing the sticker into his palm. He looked confused, like I'd handed him a tiny confession. I'll be right back. Where you going? He asked. Up, I said, and I want to find a pen. The photographer's flash popped in my face as she pinned it to my suit. A cheap, laminated badge, black letters on white plastic. Lower class. Not lowercase. Not lower deck. Not lower level. Lower class. Like a joke with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. She smiled like it was a quirky wedding gag. My daughter, my little girl who used to call me Papa in her sleep, standing there in a $1,000 dress paid for with my overtime checks, laughing with the groom's friends like I was the punchline. You get it, Dad? Because of the seating arrangement, she said, tapping the badge. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I get it. What I didn't say, what burned in my throat, was I also get that your new in-laws drove here in matching Teslas and probably think I'm the hired help. From across the room, her new husband's father, the kind of guy whose handshake feels like a real estate deal, raised his champagne glass toward me and smirked. It was the same smirk he wore at the rehearsal dinner when he joked about how far up she's marrying. I thought he meant geographically, him being from the hills, me from the flats. But no, he meant exactly what my badge now screamed. I kept my hand over it in photos, but she kept pulling it back into view. Come on, Dad, play along, she said. Play along. Like I'd been playing along for 23 years, pretending that all the sacrifices were just part of the game. A waiter passed with champagne. I took one, drained it in 2 swallows. My head buzzed, not from the alcohol, but from the roar in my ears. Every clink of glass, every high-pitched laugh from the bridal table, every time the word classy floated across the room. It all felt aimed straight at me. And then, just before the best man's toast, I caught the groom's mother whispering to my daughter, her manicured hand resting on my girl's shoulder. "She's lucky she takes after your side," the woman said. My daughter laughed. Not an awkward, "Oh, stop" laugh. Not a "don't talk about my dad like that" laugh. No, it was the kind of laugh that agreed. That's when I decided I wasn't going to sit quietly in the lower class section for the rest of the night. The lower class section was exactly what you'd picture. Round tables pressed so close to the swinging kitchen doors you could feel the whoosh of air when the waiters came through. I sat down at my assigned spot, table 11. Plastic chair that wobbled. My view? A sliver of the dance floor and the full glare of the exit sign. My table mates were mostly cousins I hadn't seen in a decade, and an uncle who once borrowed my pickup for the weekend and returned it 6 months later with a dent in the door. The place settings were different here. No gold-rimmed plates. No little crystal butter dishes. Just plain white ceramic and the cheap forks that feel like they'll snap in mashed potatoes. Even the bread basket was smaller. I checked the other tables. Upper class had 3 kinds of bread and little ramekins of whipped herb butter. Ours had 2 cold rolls and foil-wrapped butter pats. "This is cute," my cousin Marcy said, trying too hard. Like, ironic, you know? Social commentary. I stabbed a piece of lettuce. Sure. Irony. Inside, my head was a carousel of images, late-night shifts at the plant, clipping coupons to afford her dance recitals, sitting in the ER holding her hand when she broke her arm falling off that second-hand bike. None of it ironic. All of it real. The kitchen doors slammed open again, a burst of steam and garlic. A busboy squeezed past me with a tray of champagne flutes, one wobbling dangerously close to my shoulder. "Sorry, man," he said, glancing at my badge. "Lower class, huh? That's rough." I smirked. "Yeah, real rough." He grinned, conspiratorial. "Hey, at least you're right next to the supply station. Free refills all night." And that's when it hit me. This seat wasn't just a snub. It was a gift. They'd parked me at the choke point of the whole operation. Every plate, every tray, every drink passed within arm's reach. And the kitchen staff? They were already on my side. I could feel it. I sipped my water and leaned back. Let them toast and clink their gold-rimmed glasses up front. I was already planning my first move. You can tell a lot about a wedding by its kitchen. Theirs ran like a Vegas casino. Servers in black vests darting like card dealers, chefs barking orders over the hiss of pans, a maitre d' pacing with a clipboard like a general counting troops. From my little lower-class outpost, I could see everything. Which trays came out first, which dishes the upper class got before the middle even saw a bread roll. Timing was the invisible currency here, and I was sitting on the vault. "Hey, man, you want some of the good bread?" The busboy, Marco, asked, nodding toward the 3 bread basket headed for table 1. Wouldn't say no. 2 minutes later, I had rosemary focaccia on my plate while my cousins were still peeling the foil off cold butter pats. I tore off a chunk, chewed slow, eyes on the front of the room where the speeches were starting. The groom's father had the mic, giving a speech that was basically a TED Talk on how his son was a man of vision and how it's a blessing to join 2 families from such different walks of life. His pause before different was so slight, you'd miss it, unless you've been listening for that pause your whole damn life. The applause was polite, but I caught the groom's mom watching my table like she was making sure we didn't try to sneak into first class. Marco slid by again with 2 glasses of champagne. "These were extras," he said. From up front. I clinked his glass. "You just became my favorite person here." From then on, it became a game. Every pass through the kitchen doors, Marco slipped me little upgrades, a better wine, extra shrimp, actual cloth napkins. I didn't ask for them, but I didn't refuse, either. Every bite, every sip, was another reminder that they could label me lower class all they wanted. Labels don't stop resourcefulness. Halfway through the maid of honor's speech, I spotted my daughter glancing toward me, maybe to check if I was smiling for the camera. I was, but it wasn't the smile she thought. Because now, I wasn't just surviving her wedding. I was running a quiet counter program. And the first real move was coming during our song. They called it the father moment. 2 chairs set at the edge of the dance floor like a boxing ring's corner seats. My name announced first, then Brad's, her stepdad, in matching beige with that realtor smile. He looked like he was about to list the venue for sale. The DJ queued up our song. Not just a song. Our song. The one from the kitchen nights, the thunderstorm nights. My throat tightened, but I stepped out anyway. Half and half, my daughter whispered, eyes darting to the cameras. Don't make it awkward. Wouldn't dream of it, I said. Brad went first. He spun her like a prom chaperone trying too hard. All big gestures and toothy grins for the crowd. The guests clapped. Cameras flashed. But I watched her face. Polite smile. Eyes scanning the room like she was checking her notifications. Halfway through the first chorus, he patted my shoulder. All yours, big guy. I took her hands, small in mine just like when she was 7, but now with rings worth more than my truck. She started into the practice sway, but I didn't move. You remember what we used to do during this part? I asked, low enough only she could hear. She blinked. What? And then I hummed. The same off-key hum I used to do when the power went out and we danced in the dark kitchen, steam from the rice curling between us. Her eyes flickered. Recognition, maybe, or something close. But she glanced toward the head table, and the moment cracked. You're supposed to spin me, she whispered. I didn't. Instead, I stepped closer to the mic stand on the edge of the dance floor. The crowd quieted, curious. Before I give her back, I said, voice carrying now. I just want to thank everyone for the seating arrangement tonight. Lower class, table 11, best view in the house. A ripple of awkward laughter. The groom's mother's smile froze. Marco, from the kitchen, grinned like he'd just seen a magic trick. And you know what? I added, squeezing her hands. No matter where they sit you, you can still dance like you're in the middle. I spun her then, slow, deliberate, right into the spotlight. The cameras flashed again. But this time, I wasn't smiling for them. I was smiling because I'd just moved the center of the room. Brad took the mic next, all privileged to be part of this journey and honored to share the father role. Polite applause, tight smiles. The DJ moved to hand it back to the MC, but I didn't let go of the mic stand. I'll just be a second, I said. That got the kind of hush you hear when someone ignores the flight attendant's safety demo. I glanced at my daughter, then at the whole glittering room, the gold-rimmed plates, the skyline view, the faces that had never been to my side of town. I wasn't asked to make a speech tonight, I began. Probably because, well, you can see it on my jacket. A ripple of laughter, more nervous this time. I tapped the little plastic badge. Lower class. They said it was a joke. And maybe it is. But the thing about jokes is, you have to know where the punchline lands. Her groom shifted in his chair. The upper-class tables had stopped chewing. I went on, keeping my voice steady. I raised this girl in a 2-bedroom apartment over a laundromat. Our vacations were dollar movies and drive-through ice cream. Her first car had a hole in the floorboard big enough to see the street. And I'd do it all again. A pause. You could hear the hum of the air vents. See, lower class isn't about money. It's about starting where you start, doing what you can with what you've got. It's about working double shifts so your kid can take ballet. It's about learning to fix a leaking roof with YouTube and borrowed tools. It's about loving someone enough to make sure they never feel the weight of what you went without. In the corner, Marco leaned against the kitchen door, arms crossed, nodding. I looked at my daughter, really looked. You may be marrying into something fancier. You may eat at tables with more forks than you know what to do with. But don't forget, you come from grit, from work, from someone who'll always be in your corner, no matter what label you stick on him. I handed the mic back, set the badge on the head table, and walked off to table 11. The applause was scattered, half polite, half genuine. The groom's mother looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. But my daughter, her eyes followed me the whole way. I sat back down at table 11, poured myself a fresh glass of wine Marco had accidentally brought from the top-tier stash, and waited for the ripple effect. It didn't take long. First came Cousin Marcy, leaning across the table. That was actually kind of epic. She said it like she was surprised my mouth could form words without cussing. Then a couple from the middle-class section slid over under the pretense of saying hi. We didn't know you weren't giving a speech, the husband said. That should have been the only speech. From the kitchen door, Marco raised his glass in a silent toast. What I didn't expect were the small defections from the upper-class side. One of the groom's younger cousins, silk tie, hair like a shampoo commercial, wandered over, ditched his plate in front of me, and said, "Honestly, this table's way more fun. They're afraid to laugh up there." Two more joined. Then three. Soon, table 11 had an eclectic mix. Cousins, strays from middle, one of the groomsmen who claimed he was tired of the politics up front. Someone pushed the breadbasket toward me like it was an offering. From across the room, the groom's mom kept glancing over, tight smile never reaching her eyes. She didn't like the migration. But my daughter, she was watching too. Different look this time. Less performance, more what? Pride? Curiosity? It was hard to tell from here. Then the DJ announced the cake cutting, and I realized my next move wasn't about speeches or seats. It was about seizing the one part of this wedding no one had thought to guard. The cake table. The cake was ridiculous. For tiers of fondant and sugar roses, perched on a mirrored stand like a Faberge egg in a jewelry store. The kind of cake that probably had its own NDA. The DJ called for everyone to gather around. The official photographer was in place, crouched low like she was documenting a wildlife migration. My daughter and her new husband posed, fingers laced over the silver cake knife, all smiles. I stood at the edge of the crowd, watching. The plan was already forming. You ever notice how the first slice at a wedding is all for show? Just a tiny wedge for the couple to feed each other while the real work happens in the kitchen. Which means someone has to ferry the rest of the cake back there. Which means, Marco. Sure enough, as soon as the ceremonial bite was over, complete with fake frosting smear on the groom's nose, the servers moved in. Marco spotted me, gave a little nod, and the next thing I knew, a plate with a slab of the good cake was slid into my hand before the rest even cleared the table. It was absurdly good, almond sponge, raspberry filling, buttercream so smooth it practically apologized as it melted. I took my time eating it, letting each bite be another silent protest against the lower-class label. But I wasn't just hoarding cake. I was distributing it. Plate by plate, Marco and I funneled the first run of slices to table 11 and our growing annex of defectors from other sections. The upper class didn't even notice at first. They were still busy posing for photos and congratulating themselves. By the time their plates arrived, we were already on seconds. That's when I saw my daughter clock it. She looked from our table to hers, then to the kitchen, and back to me. I didn't hide my grin. Because here's the thing about a wedding reception. You can control the seating chart, you can control the microphone, but you can't control where people want to be. And more, they wanted to be right here. By the time the DJ announced the bouquet toss, half the middle-class section had migrated to our side. We were basically running a parallel reception, louder, looser, more alive. Up front, the upper-class tables looked bored. Perfect posture, polite clapping, conversations so quiet they barely rippled the air. Every now and then, I'd catch one of them glancing back toward table 11, like we were the noisy apartment upstairs throwing a party they weren't invited to. The groom's mother finally made her move. She glided over, smile tight enough to chip a tooth. "We've noticed some congestion back here," she said, eyes flicking to the crowd around us. "We wouldn't want the flow of the evening disrupted." Translation: get back in your assigned box. I sipped my wine, leaned back. Funny, from here it looks like the party's flowing just fine. Her smile thinned even more. "We worked hard on this seating chart for balance." "Balance," I said, "isn't about where you sit people. It's about how they feel when they're there." A murmur of agreement went through my table. She heard it, felt it, and she hated it. Across the room, my daughter was watching again. But this time she wasn't looking away. She was tracking every beat of this little standoff. The groom's mother retreated with a polite, "Enjoy the rest of the evening," which, in her dialect, meant you're on notice. Too late, because by then, even some of the upper class were starting to wander back. They came for the better company, stayed for Marco's steady stream of premium pours. And somewhere in that swell of laughter and clinking glasses, I realized I wasn't just surviving this night. I was stealing it. By the last hour of the reception, the dance floor was split in two camps. Up front, a polite waltz of sequins and smiles for the official photographer. In the back, a sweaty, joyous mess of people who'd abandoned their tables altogether. Guess which side had the energy? The DJ tried to corral everyone back into the planned flow of events. But once people had tasted freedom and the good wine, they weren't going back to their assigned seats. The lower class section had turned into the section. I was leaning against the kitchen door, catching my breath between songs, when Marco handed me another drink. "You basically took over the wedding," he said. I shrugged. "Didn't mean to." He laughed. "Yeah, you did." I watched my daughter across the room. She was laughing, really laughing, for the first time that day, twirling in her dress with 3 of her college friends, not posing, not glancing at the photographer, just present, the way she used to be before all this class theater started. Brad, the stepdad, came over, loosening his tie. "Gotta hand it to you, man. You turned table 11 into the VIP lounge." I raised an eyebrow. I thought upper class was the VIP lounge. He smirked, but there was a tinge of respect there now. "Not tonight." The groom's mother wasn't thrilled. She hovered near the head table, arms folded, her perfect hair unbending under the strain of losing control. Every few minutes, her eyes cut toward me like she was trying to figure out how the guy in the crooked tie and cheap badge had outmaneuvered her whole seating plan. It was simple. I'd stopped playing their game and made my own. And that's when the last move came to me. Not planned, not strategic, just instinct. The DJ announced the final song, some slow number meant to send people off on a sentimental note. My daughter was already on the floor with her new husband. I walked over, badge still on my jacket. I tapped her shoulder. "Mind if I cut in? Just for the end." The groom stepped aside, polite, maybe a little relieved. I took her hands. "You know," I said, "I kept this on all night." I tapped the badge. "Lower class." She looked at it, then back at me. "It was supposed to be funny, Dad." I nodded. Maybe it was. But here's the thing about labels. Sometimes you wear them so long, they stop being about you and start being about the person who put them there. Her brow furrowed just a little. "I didn't mean." I cut her off with a half smile. "I know you didn't. But you're my kid. And tonight, you saw something important. You can put me at the back. You can give me the cheap chair and the wobbly fork. But I'll still find a way to make my table the place everybody wants to be." She blinked fast. The music swelled. I could see her trying to say something, but the words got lost somewhere between her throat and her eyes. "Dad," she started. "Chill. Just dance." We swayed through the last verse, my humming barely audible under the speakers, just like those thunderstorm nights. When the song ended, I reached up, peeled the badge from my jacket, and stuck it gently to her bouquet. "Keep it," I said. "Might remind you where the Real party was." And then I stepped back, gave her hand to her new husband, and walked toward the kitchen doors one last time. The applause was polite at first, then louder. Cheers from the back tables, a few from the middle, even a rogue whistle from the upper class. Marco held the door open for me like I was royalty. As I left, I glanced back. My daughter was still holding the bouquet with that stupid little badge stuck to it. She wasn't looking at the groom. She was looking at me. And for the first time all night, there was no performance in her face, just the girl I'd raised, watching her dad walk away knowing exactly who he was. Lower class. Not tonight.